Welcome to the new format with reflections. Thank you for joining me for my class on Illuminations. 6 practices to light your daily life. This is a very exciting class for me. And as you know, I always, for those of you who have been with me before, you know that I start every one of my classes with a prayer, a meditation, a prayer that kind of gathers us all together from all over the world, because there are people joining us from everywhere. So with that in mind, just to get us all together, let me lead you in a little moment, a little prayer. If I could shine a light on one mystery in my life, what would that be? I've asked myself thousands of questions during my life, most of which have no answers, at least not the soul questions. But maybe soul questions are not meant to have answers. Perhaps dwelling in mystery is a natural state, wondering and wandering in life, observing the ever-changing design of all living creatures. We are participants in endless acts of creation. This is the experience of life, a continuum of cause and effect, of actions and reactions. Could the purpose of life be as simple as learning to make wise choices? Lord, the older I get, the more I realize that much of the suffering in my life has been the consequence of my own fearful choices, or choices motivated by anger or simply stubbornness. But perhaps I decided not to accept something that happened because I thought I didn't choose it, or I've decided that something was unforgivable, or not realizing that I was choosing bitterness in not forgiving, keeping bitterness in my mouth for the rest of my life. Grant me the courage to look inward, to understand the mysteries within me. How can I begin to comprehend celestial mysteries if I can't even understand myself? Hover over me, Lord. Amen. That's what illumination is about. It's about understanding, with coming into moments of such light. I had my notes. Now this is so me. I have all my notes all over this page, this table. And just before class, as I was looking at the order of my notes, I realized I don't want to follow the order that they're in, so I've rejuggled them. And I thought the best way to bring you into the topic, and why I really wanted to do this subject matter now and with such enthusiasm, is to share 2 experiences that happened to me within this last month. And both of which have had a profound effect. And in fact, I'm still in the throes of this. I mean, it's still working its way through me. So I have to say that that's a unique thing for me. I'm going to take my ring off. I'm hearing it knock on the table, and I don't want to disturb you. That this is the first time that I'm actually actively in I guess I would call it a micro mystical experience, and sharing it and observing it and having it redirect me at the same time that I'm talking and sharing. It's all happening at once. This is the first time for me. So this is a new experience, and it's as if I'm speaking to you of a light that's just come on inside of me while the light's just come on. And so this is what happened, and it's a way for me to describe the significance of what I mean by illumination, how to discern the difference between that and just an aha experience, what the significance is of it, why I think ordinary consciousness is no longer adequate today. There's so much I want to get to, so we'll start here. So I wrote a little bit about this in the when I described this class, and that's that I was walking the Camino, and I was walking with 3 dear and wonderful friends, and on this particular day, we were walking up the side of a hill, a little more than a hill, much less than a mountain. But we were walking and it was raining. And so because it was raining, we had, our hoods on, and it was not pouring, but it was misty enough. And we were looking down on the ground because the road was full of stones. And so this is important to me because, when you're looking down and you're just concentrating so that you don't fall, and that's all you see. When you look at that, that for you, in that moment, is the whole of your reality, and all you're looking at is stones and the limited amount of land that's beneath your feet. And in that moment, that's everything you can see. And then after walking, uphill for 45 minutes or something, we decided to take a break. And as we did, it was just about that time that it stopped raining. And so, it stopped raining. I pushed my hood back and to take a look at where I was. And there we were standing on the side of this hill with this vast expanse, this vast valley. And it was this panoramic view of a Spanish valley. And there were like 8 little hamlets. And I love to engage in perceptions that cause you to bend reality. For example, if I'm looking at all those 8 villages, it's very much the case that I see all 8 villages, but they can't see 8 villages from where they're at. They can only see their own village. So in a typical Socratic dialogue, who then has the full understanding of reality? Is it the person sitting in the one village, or is it you who sees all 8? There's a classic question about the shape of reality, and it all depends on the position you're sitting in. This is kind of a thread of the Illumination dialogue. Like, everything depends on the level, the floor of the building, the perspective that you are able to maintain. So as I looked at all these villages and the sun coming out, and it was glistening in this on this area that had just been rained on, and I could smell this fresh air, and I thought to myself, I've got to remember this. I want to remember everything about this. It's so beautiful. And I could see the other mountains. I could see the tip of the Pyrenees with snow on them, and I thought, this is so beautiful. And then I thought, just a second ago, all I could see was stones. And I was missing all this because I wasn't looking up. All of this was there all the time. And I was missing it because I wasn't looking up. And that, I can't communicate how much that struck me, that it was there all the time. All the time. But I missed it because I wasn't looking up. And I thought, how much more am I missing because of my powers, because of the way I am not observing something? So I thought, I want to remember this. And now comes the next tsunami, which really just knocked me over. Just as I said to myself, I want to remember this, every moment about it, I realized that I could hardly remember most of my life. As I stood there in Spain, on the edge of this cliff, this huge truth came into me that said, how much of my own life do I remember? I remember significant birthdays. I remember the day my father died. I remember the day my brother died. I remember this. I remember the birth of my nieces. I remember all these significant things. When my books came out, I remember this. I remember I remember the day I met David. I remember all these markers along the way. But if I said to myself, Carol, where were you on your 37th birthday? And I have no idea. None. Zero. I don't remember where I was on my 36th birthday. I don't remember where I was August 4th, 1968. I have no idea. Zero. So that the majority of my life, it's one big, huge, who knows where I was. I remember the stream of it and incidences that stick out, but not the ones that hold them together. That, to me, was incredible. Here comes the next tsunami. As I stood there realizing that how important could my life be if I can't even remember it, right? Then I thought, my whole life could end right here, right now. And this valley could be the last thing I see. And what difference would it make? Because I can't even remember the life that I think is so significant. And it's my own I'm talking about. So what have I been doing? What have I been focusing on that I have not enough memories? What have I been concentrating? Have I been looking at stones, or have I been looking at magnificent valleys? What exactly have I been casting my attention to? That I should have more vistas like this in my recall. So obviously I have been concentrating on stones and not these vistas. So in that moment on that side of the mountain, I felt this incredible sensation that was not going to happen again. That somehow I was going to, oh, wait a minute, this is a big deal too. In realizing that I didn't remember a lot of the, odds and ends days of my life. It occurred to me that I must have forgotten a whole lot of things that once upon a time upset me very much. Now that's a big deal, so I have to say this again. That there must have been a whole lot of things in my life that I got upset over, and I know I can remember a lot of them. But it's funny that as I stood there, I couldn't remember them. Now, of course, I sit back and I think, I remember that. But in that moment, none of that occurred to me. None of it. None of the things that I had with people, nothing occurred to me. It wasn't significant. It didn't matter. What mattered, in that incredible moment of realizing it was as if I was being asked, how do you want to relate with your life for the rest of your life? Where do you want to cast your attention? In these beautiful vistas or on these roads? Do you want to look down or do you want to look up? In that moment, I changed my life. I changed the bearings of my life. Right there on the side of this mountain, it was as if it wasn't as if a light did go on in me, and I reshaped the way I would live the rest of my life. I upped the attention that I would give to every day of my life. I upped the choices, the consciousness with which I would make choices of where and how I would spend my time, of how I would listen to people, of how I would pay attention, of what would be important to me, of why I would make the choices I do. Everything went up a notch because I did not want to ignore anything. Anything. I didn't want to forget the small details, everything. I wanted to heighten my attention because it occurred to me on that road that when I was looking down, I had ignored all the beauty around me. I had dismissed this incredible vista. And because it just didn't occur to me. And now I said to myself, now everything's going to occur to me. I'm upping the bar. It was a moment of great illumination where I thought, no, I'm going to up and record everything differently in my memory now. And what I did, and I hope I'm communicating this, is that it influenced immediately every relationship because it upped the importance of every relationship that I have. Because it immediately made everybody in my life all that more important to me, all that more significant to me. Everything about them became that much more important to me because that's who I'm with, or that's the person I'm talking to, or this is the person I'm having dinner with, or this is even because I don't believe in that things are just accidental. Because I don't believe that, because I think things are very well coordinated and choreographed, even though we may not understand the how it works or what, it doesn't matter. We don't matter when it comes down to all of that stuff. But I do believe that everything is choreographed like that, and I believe that because everything in science is choreographed. Everything in nature, everything is perfectly timed in the orbits of the planets and the stars, and everything is too choreographed for there. Even in chaos, has order to it, and order has chaos to it. It's a paradoxical concept, but it is the truth because in acts of creation, built into it are the laws of the universe. And laws have order to them. They are operating mechanisms. And so by virtue of that, there is structure to it. And so for me, even now when I go to the store and I look around at who's there, I don't think of them as just randomly there anymore. I see everything through a different lens. A different light has gone on in me. And so that's one thing that happened on the road. The second thing that happened was about the Camino itself. And that's that it is a 1,000-year-old walk that was started by Charlemagne, and it was something that was on my bucket list for a very, very long time. It's the Catholic in me, I guess, but I mean, it was a walk of pilgrimage, and Martin Sheen did a wonderful movie called The Way, if you ever want to really see what this beautiful, stunning walk is about. But so in walking this is what happened, and it's another one of those moments of illumination that happen. This path, that the Camino, it goes in and out of villages, and then it goes into the forest, and it goes into the woods, and it goes everywhere. It's 1,000 years old, so towns have been built around it and because of it, and etc. And it's the only path in the world in which, as we were walking on there, it occurred when you step on, the first thing you notice, that I notice, I can't speak for anyone else, is you step into the archetype of the pilgrim. You are no longer a tourist, you're no longer a student, you're no longer this, you are a pilgrim. And you're a spiritual pilgrim. And that archetype has a lot of force because that is the archetype that shaped that route. It's the only walk in the world that is a spiritual pilgrimage 1,000 years old. And everybody's walking toward the same place, which is Santiago, where the cathedral is, where the pilgrims end their walk. Now, so here's the thing. What I realized was when you're walking on the walk, everybody, there's a like a sacred etiquette. Everybody greets everybody with a blessing, blessed walk to you, blessed camino to you, buen camino. And the second thing is that everybody is walking the same way. Now, this is where, if you saw it symbolically, it's just like life. We are all walking in the same direction. We all get one day older every day. And whether or not we speak the same language when it comes to being an atheist, an agnostic, or a believer, it doesn't matter. The fact is we are all living there is a soul within all of us that inevitably is going to go on. So from that point of view, we are all walking toward that end point, which is inevitably a sacred one. So when I was walking on this Camino, I realized this is really the metaphor of life itself. And that everybody was, greeting everybody from this deep reverence of, good Camino to you, good. And that if you stepped off the Camino, and at times it was just as close as the sidewalk is to the road, an ordinary road. If you stepped off the Camino, now you are out of the pilgrim archetype and you're just a tourist. You're an ordinary mortal tourist. And you step onto the road and now traffic is going both ways and people are not blessing each other and it's just ordinary life. You step right back on to the sidewalk, and the distance could be 6 inches between the street and the side and the Camino. And there you are again, everybody walking the same direction. And this whole sense of blessing each other. There was this sense that why couldn't life be like that? This is really the way life could have. We have options that it might. Who knows why we don't want it to be this way all the time. But when it was, there was such a sense of tranquility. How very beautiful. When you are in a place that where every single person has shed their earthly role. Nobody was walking as a millionaire, a billionaire, someone with a lot of letters after their names and fancy addresses and parking fancy cars. Everybody was just a pilgrim. And everybody talked to everybody. When you'd sit down and take a break, everybody would say, where you're from and how far are you walking today? So there was not a sense of competition, I'll race you to the next town or any. It was just a very different experience of what I would call the soul of humanity. And as I experienced that, I could not help but feel that how there is a yearning for people to weave themselves into that soul of humanity, to have that become their dwelling place with humanity, that is the place we long to dwell with in each other. And that was how I was left, that there is that type of possibility of being that way with each other. And so when I came back and put together this course, beginning with this first evening session on what is illumination, why is this important, what is that state of consciousness, that to me it is part of consciously becoming part of that weave, consciously becoming part of a deeper soul humanity.